The stars were silent, but the silence carried fear. A message drifted across the dark of space, broken and trembling. It came from a small alien world, a voice cracking with terror. "Please, if anyone hears this, we beg you, they are coming. The Deathworlders, we cannot stop them, we cannot fight. Help us, please." Static swallowed the voice, leaving only an echo of despair. Across the galaxy, in a human listening post, a young officer leaned forward. His hand shook as he replayed the message. "Commander, you need to hear this." The commander, a tall man with sharp eyes, entered the room. "Another distress call?" "This one is different, sir," the officer said, lowering his voice. "They said Deathworlders." The word hung in the air like poison. The commander frowned. He had heard the rumors, giant fleets that left only ashes behind, worlds that simply vanished from the maps. No one had ever seen them and lived long. Enough to tell the full tale. The commander listened to the recording, his jaw tight. "Play it again." The officer obeyed. The broken voice repeated, begging, crying, and then silence. "Who are they?" the commander asked. The officer pulled up the data. "Unknown alien species, small colony, barely armed. They don't stand a chance." The commander looked out the window at the stars. They seemed colder tonight. Another officer entered. "Sir, should we ignore it? We don't even know them. If the Deathworlders are real, going there means suicide." The commander stayed quiet. He remembered Earth, its people, its long history of struggle. He remembered the wars, the battles fought not just for survival, but for dignity. Humans had begged once too in their darkest hours. "No," he said at last, "we will not ignore a cry for mercy. Not while I am in command." The officers exchanged worried looks. "Sir, if they are as powerful as the stories say..." "Stories," the commander cut in. "Ghost stories told in the dark. We do not run from shadows. Prepare a message. Let the aliens know they are not alone." The young officer nodded and opened a channel. His voice was firm but kind. "To the people of the colony, this is humanity. We heard your call. We are on our way." The message was sent, but no reply came. Only silence. The crew felt the weight of it. As the fleet prepared, whispers spread through the corridors. Who were the Deathworlders? Were they beasts? Machines? Something worse? On the alien world, fear gripped every home. Families huddled together. As the sky seemed darker each night, their leaders stood in a council chamber, faces pale. "Did you hear it?" one whispered. A reply. "Another species answered us." "Yes," another said, voice shaking. "Humans. I do not know them. I do not trust them. What if they cannot stand against the Deathworlders?" "They came," the first answered. "That is more than anyone else has done. We have no choice but to hope." Hope was fragile, a candle in the storm. That night, the skies trembled. A shadow stretched across the stars. Enormous ships appeared, dark and sharp like blades. Engines burned with red fire. The ground itself seemed to quake under their arrival. The Deathworlders had come. On the surface, people screamed and ran. The leaders rushed outside, staring upward in horror. The sky was filled with war machines. A voice thundered from above. Cold and merciless. "You will bow or you will burn." The aliens fell to their knees, some crying, some begging. "We surrender. Please, mercy." But the Deathworlders were not built for mercy. Their ships lowered weapons, charging with a deadly glow. Just then, the silence of fear was broken by a new sound, a rumble that shook the heavens. Lights flared in the distance, moving fast, cutting through the black void. Human ships, sleek, armored and shining, they came in formation, their engines roaring like a promise. The Deathworlders paused, turning their monstrous heads toward the newcomers. From the human flagship, a message echoed. "To the Deathworlders, this colony is under our protection. Withdraw now." The aliens below gasped. They had expected no one. They had expected to die. Yet here, against all odds, another species had come to stand beside them. The Deathworlder voice boomed with cruel laughter. "You think you can stop us? Humans, we will crush you first." The first shot lit the sky. Beams of fire streaked through space, exploding against human shields. The battle had begun. On the alien world, the people clung to each other, watching the skies burn. Ships clashed, weapons flashed, and the night turned into fire. Inside the human flagship, the commander stood tall. "Hold the line, do not break." His officers worked with steel in their eyes. "Enemy numbers overwhelming, sir." "Then we fight smarter," the commander said. "Not stronger, smarter." The Deathworlders pressed harder, ships moving like predators. Human vessels twisted and turned, taking hits but refusing to fall. A young pilot spoke over the comm. "Sir, if we fall, what will happen to the colony?" The commander's voice was steady. "Then we do not fall." In that moment, fear turned into defiance. Humanity had heard a call for mercy, but mercy was not what they carried into battle. They carried fire, courage, and the will to stand when others bowed. On the ground, the aliens watched as explosions lit the night. One whispered, "They fight for us." Another answered, voice full of awe, "No, they fight because they cannot do otherwise." The first Deathworlder ship cracked apart in flame, a giant collapsing under human fire. For the first time, the monsters faltered. The commander's eyes narrowed. "They bleed, and if they bleed, we can make them run." The battle raged, but the seed of doubt had been planted in the enemy. The Deathworlders had come expecting easy prey. Instead, they found humans. The stars burned with war, but beneath it the alien colony felt something they had lost long ago, hope. And in the echo of that hope, a truth spread across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had come to demand mercy. Instead, they had met humanity. The human fleet gathered in silence. Rows of ships floated in the blackness of space, engines glowing like red eyes against the dark. Each vessel carried soldiers who knew the risks but chose to come anyway. They had heard the alien cry for mercy, and now they carried the weight of that choice. Inside the flagship, the commander stood in the center of the bridge. His eyes scanned the screens, showing the alien colony far across the stars. Around him, his crew whispered their doubts. "Sir," one officer said softly, "we don't even know these aliens. Why risk everything for them?" The commander's voice was steady. "Because they asked for help, and we are not the kind of people who turn away." The young officer from the listening post spoke next. "But the Deathworlders, what if they are real? What if we can't stop them?" The commander's jaw tightened. "Then we show the galaxy that humans will stand, even against monsters." His words carried through the bridge, firm and unshaken. Yet in every heart, fear lingered. Preparations began. Ships were fueled, weapons charged. Messages were sent home in case some never returned. Families received recordings filled with love and final words. Soldiers checked their gear in silence, each lost in thought. In one corner of the barracks, two young soldiers sat together. One whispered, "Do you think we'll make it back?" The other tried to smile but failed. "If we don't, at least we'll go fighting." The engines roared, breaking the quiet. One by one, the ships moved into formation. The fleet cut through the dark, heading for the alien colony. Every mile closer made the weight heavier. On the journey, the commander walked the halls, speaking. To his crew, he stopped by the pilot's seat where a young woman gripped the controls tightly. "Are you ready?" he asked. She forced a grin. "Ready enough, sir. Just don't expect me to land this thing softly." For a moment, tension cracked into laughter, but it faded quickly. Fear was stronger. As the fleet neared the system, the first signs of destruction appeared. Broken satellites drifted like bones. Signals of distress filled the comms, weak and fading. The young officer whispered, "We're too late." The commander shook his head. "No, they're still alive. I can feel it. Keep moving." The fleet crossed the final stretch of space. Then the alien world came into view, glowing faintly against the void. Around it, something darker moved, shapes of enormous ships, blocking out the stars. The crew fell silent. "Sir," an officer whispered, Those must be them. The Deathworlders. The enemy fleet was massive. Their ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were jagged, brutal, more like predators than machines. Each one bristled with weapons, glowing faintly like the eyes of beasts. The human fleet slowed. Every soldier on board felt the same chill crawl down their spine. The commander's voice broke the silence. "Transmit our message, now!" The young officer opened the channel. His voice was firm. "To the people of the colony, this is humanity. We have come." For a long moment, there was no answer. Just static. Then faintly, a voice came back. It was the same alien who had begged for mercy. You came. We thought no one would answer. We thought we were already dead." "Hold on!" the commander said, leaning toward the comm. "You are not alone anymore. We stand with you." The aliens below cried with relief, but their fear remained. They looked to the sky, where the Deathworlder fleet waited like vultures. Then, a new voice thundered through the comms, deep and merciless. "Humans, you dare stand in our way?" The entire bridge shook from the weight of that voice. The crew froze, their blood running cold. The commander answered, his voice sharp. "This world called for help. We will protect it. The Deathworlder." Voice laughed, cruel and mocking. "Protect? You are nothing. We are Deathworlders. Worlds fall before us. Species bow. You will too." The commander's reply was calm, but iron-hard. "We do not bow." The Deathworlder fleet began to move. Enormous engines flared, and their warships shifted into attack positions. "Sir," the pilot said, her hands trembling slightly, "they're going to strike." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then we strike first." The first human ships moved forward, weapons hot, shields raised. Every soldier braced for what was coming. On the alien world, families watched the skies, whispering prayers in fear. Some could not believe what they saw. Another species coming to fight for them. Do they truly think they can win? One alien leader asked, voice heavy with doubt. Another answered, perhaps not, but they came, and that alone changes everything. Back on the human flagship, the young officer whispered to himself, "We are really going to war with Deathworlders." The commander heard him. His eyes stayed on the enemy ships as he spoke. "Yes, and we will show them who we are." The Deathworlder fleet advanced, a wall of shadows and fire. Human ships held formation, ready to meet them head-on. The sky above. The alien colony was about to turn into a battlefield. The commander stood tall, his voice ringing across the bridge. "All ships, hold the line." And with that order, the first war between humanity and the Deathworlders began. The blackness of space cracked open with fire. The Deathworlder fleet moved as one, their enormous ships sliding forward like predators in the night. Jagged metal hulls glowed with crimson light, each vessel bristling with weapons. They did not come quietly, they came to conquer. On the alien world below, every eye turned upward. The sky itself seemed swallowed by shadows. Children clung to their parents. Leaders huddled in fear. Some whispered, "This is the end." The alien council stood on a balcony, staring at the sky. "There is no escape," one said in despair. "We begged for mercy, but monsters do not know mercy." Another leader pointed, voice shaking. "Look, the humans, they came, their ships are here." Hope flickered, small but stubborn. Above the planet, the human fleet held its line. The commander stood in the center of the flagship bridge, his face pale but unyielding. Screens around him showed the Deathworlder ships spreading out, surrounding them like wolves circling prey. "They're trying to box us in," an officer reported. "Let them," the commander said. His voice carried no fear. "We won't be easy prey." The Deathworlder voice thundered across all channels, mocking and cruel. "Humans, you choose death. This colony will burn, and your bones will scatter among the stars." The young officer at the comm muttered, "They sound so sure of themselves." The commander looked straight at the screen, into the glowing eyes of the enemy ships. "Confidence is not victory. Hold steady." The first strike came without warning. A Deathworlder battleship unleashed a beam of red fire that tore across the void. It slammed into a human cruiser, shields flaring white before cracking apart. The ship rocked violently, alarms screaming. "Shields down to 60%, the pilot shouted. "Return fire," the commander ordered. Human weapons lit up, blue and silver bolts slicing through the dark. The counterattack struck the Deathworlder hull, sparking explosions across its jagged armor. But the enemy did not fall. It pushed forward, relentless. On the alien world, the people gasped as the battle began. Explosions flashed in the sky like falling stars. The ground trembled from the force. One child whispered, "Are the humans winning?" His father hugged him close. "I don't know, but they are fighting for us." The Deathworlder fleet pressed harder. 2 ships moved together, trapping a human destroyer. Their beams cut through its shields, ripping metal apart. The destroyer spun, flames bursting from its sides. Inside, the crew screamed over comms, "We're hit! We're—" The signal cut into silence. The young officer on the flagship flinched. "They're picking us off!" The commander's eyes hardened. "Then we hit back harder, target their flanks, break their formation." Human ships split into groups, darting through enemy lines with sharp precision. Where Deathworlders moved like giants, humans moved like hunters, swift and coordinated. A human frigate slipped behind an enemy cruiser, launching a spread of missiles. The explosions tore chunks from its hull, forcing the massive ship to drift. For the first time, the Deathworlders staggered. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. "We can hurt them." But victory came at a price. Another human cruiser was struck broadside, fire ripping through its decks. The screams of its crew echoed across the comms before silence swallowed them too. The pilot on the flagship clenched her teeth. "Sir, we're outnumbered 5-1. We can't keep this up." The commander's gaze remained steady. "Outnumbered doesn't mean outmatched. Stay sharp. Make them bleed for every step." The Deathworlder voice returned, mocking louder than before. "Humans fight with courage, but courage dies like everything else. Soon your fleet will be ash." The commander leaned closer to the comm. His words cut sharp as steel. "If we fall, then we'll fall standing. Can you say the same?" The Deathworlders gave no reply. Instead, their ships unleashed another wave of fire. Human vessels twisted and turned, dodging where they could, blocking where they couldn't. The stars turned into a storm of light and flame. On the alien world, the people cried out as debris from the battle rained into the atmosphere, glowing streaks across the night. A council leader shouted, "It is hopeless. They cannot win." But another answered firmly, "And yet they do not run." Back in space, the young officer on the flagship whispered, "Sir, if this continues, we'll lose everything." The commander stared at the shifting battlefield. His mind raced, calculating. "Not if we turn their strength against them," he pointed to the screens. "Deathworlders are pushing too close to the planet. They want to scare the colony. That's their weakness. They're overconfident," the pilot caught on. "If we pull them into low orbit, their size will work against them." The commander nodded. "Exactly. Signal all ships. Fall back toward the planet. Make them chase us." The fleet obeyed. Human ships retreated, slipping closer to the alien world. The Deathworlders followed, hungry for the kill. From below, the aliens watched as the war descended toward their skies. "Why are the humans falling back?" one asked in fear. "Because," another whispered, eyes wide, "they have a plan." As the Deathworlder fleet closed in, their massive ships struggled in the planet's gravity pull. Their formation grew sloppy, ships drifting too near each. The commander's eyes narrowed. Now! Break and strike! Human ships split in all directions, weaving between the enemy like knives. Missiles and beams tore into Deathworlder hulls. One ship crashed into another, unable to maneuver. Fire swallowed them both. The aliens below gasped as two enemy giants fell from the sky, burning like meteors. They can fall! A child cried. The commander's voice carried across his fleet. Push them back, show them we are not prey. The humans attacked with renewed fury. Deathworlders, shaken by their losses, struggled to regroup. The mocking voice returned, now tinged with anger. You dare defy us this way, you will regret it, the commander answered calmly. No, you will. And with another strike, the night sky burned brighter than ever. The skies above the alien world burned. Fire streaked across the darkness as ships clashed, metal tearing against metal, light breaking the night into fragments. Humanity had struck back, but the Deathworlders were far from broken. On the flagship bridge, alarms screamed. Sparks rained from damaged panels, and smoke curled through the air. The pilot shouted, "Shields at 30%. One more hit like that and we're gone." The commander braced himself against the railing. "Hold steady. We can't break." Now, across the battlefield, a human destroyer exploded into flame, its pieces scattering across the void. The loss hit like a knife through the crew. The young officer whispered, voice shaking, "That was the Resolute. 200 souls. Gone." The commander forced himself to stay calm. "They didn't die for nothing. Every second they fought bought us a chance. Use it." The Deathworlders pushed forward, their enormous warships closing the gap. Their weapons glowed with energy, preparing another devastating strike. "Sir!" another officer cried. "They're targeting the colony. They're going to fire on the surface." The commander's eyes hardened. "Not while we breathe. All ships, defend the planet at all costs." Human vessels darted between the enemy and the world below. Shields flared as beams of fire slammed into them, but still they held. On the planet, the aliens watched in horror and awe. Families huddled on rooftops, their eyes fixed on the war raging above. One elder spoke, voice trembling. "They shield us with their own lives." Children clutched their parents, whispering, "Will they win?" No one answered. The Deathworlder voice cut across the comms, deep and mocking. "Foolish humans. You throw yourselves into the fire, but fire consumes all." The commander replied, his tone sharp as steel. "Then let's see who burns first." He turned to his crew. "Target their lead ship, full barrage, now." Human cannons roared, beams of light slicing through the dark. They hammered into the largest Deathworlder vessel, tearing open its jagged armor. For a moment it staggered. Cheers rose on the bridge. Direct hit! But the enemy ship did not fall. Instead, it returned fire with a blast so powerful it shook the entire human fleet. Two smaller ships were torn apart instantly. The bridge shuddered violently, throwing officers to the floor. The young officer scrambled back to his console, shouting, "We can't take another exchange like that." The commander gritted his teeth. "Then we change the rules." He studied the battle map, watching enemy patterns. The Deathworlders relied on strength, pressing forward with brute force. But brute force could be turned against itself. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We lure them closer, make them overextend." The humans pulled back once more, drifting nearer the planet's upper orbit. The Deathworlders followed, hungry for the kill. Their formation stretched, cracks beginning to show. The pilot glanced at the commander. "Sir, if they realize what we're doing—" "They won't," he said firmly. "They think we're afraid. Let them believe it." On the surface, the aliens trembled as the enemy fleet loomed larger in their skies. "Why do the humans retreat again?" one leader asked. Another watched carefully. "It is not retreat. It is strategy." The Deathworlders surged forward, ships crowding each other in the narrow orbit. Their size, once their strength, became their weakness. The commander slammed his fist down. "Now, strike with everything we have." Human ships broke formation, scattering like wolves attacking a herd. Missiles streaked out, beams tore across the void, and explosions ripped through enemy hulls. Two Deathworlder cruisers collided as they tried to maneuver, their massive frames crushing together before bursting into flame. On the bridge, the young officer shouted, "We've got them! Their formation is breaking!" But the celebration ended quickly. Another enemy battleship unleashed a brutal blast that hammered the flagship. Consoles exploded, flames erupting along the walls. "Fire on deck!" a soldier cried. The commander coughed through the smoke. "Contain it! We're not finished yet." The pilot's hands shook on the controls. "Sir, we can't take much more of this. One more direct hit and then don't let them hit us," he said coldly. Outside, the humans fought with desperate fury. Frigates weaved between giants, bombarding their exposed flanks. Destroyers launched suicide runs, diving close enough to land crippling blows before being torn apart themselves. Every loss hurt, but every strike weakened the Deathworlders. On the planet, the aliens gasped as 3 enemy ships fell from the sky, burning like meteors. Some began to cheer through their tears. "They can fall!" voices cried. "The monsters can fall!" Still, the Deathworlder fleet was vast, and their numbers pressed hard. For every ship destroyed, more pushed forward. The alien council huddled. Together, one whispering, "Even with all their courage, can the humans truly win this?" Back in space, the young officer looked at his commander, fear in his eyes. "Sir, what if we can't hold them?" The commander's gaze stayed fixed on the burning battlefield. His voice was quiet, but unbreakable. "Then we make them pay. For every inch they take, we fight until the stars themselves remember our stand." The Deathworlder voice returned, now angrier, sharper. "You defy us still? Then your end will be eternal. We will erase your kind from history." The commander gave a cold smile. "History remembers those who fight, not those who conquer." Another wave of human ships surged forward, driving deep into enemy lines. Explosions lit the void. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the Deathworlders began to falter. And far below, the aliens who had once begged for mercy now whispered something new. "They are not here to beg. They are here to fight." The void was alive, with fire and explosions. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, hovered near the alien world. Debris from destroyed ships drifted in every direction. Yet for every human loss, they had made the Deathworlders bleed. The commander stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the battle map. "We've weakened them enough," he said. "Now we make them regret chasing us here." The young officer looked up, hope mixed with fear. "Sir, we're outnumbered. They still have twice our fleet. Can we really finish this?" The commander's voice was calm, almost quiet. "Numbers mean nothing if we fight smart. Focus on their formation. Force mistakes. Make them overreach again." The pilot, hands trembling, asked, "Sir, what if they break through to the planet?" "They won't," he said firmly. "Not while we breathe." Above the alien colony, the sky burned with streaks of light and explosions. For the people below, it was terrifying and miraculous. Humans darted between the Deathworlders' massive ships, landing precise strikes, drawing the enemy closer to the planet's orbit. One of the aliens whispered, "They fight. But why? Why risk everything? For us?" a council elder answered, "Because mercy is their choice, and humans do not ignore cries for help." Back in space, the Deathworlder fleet began to falter. Their formations stretched too thin, ships struggling in the planet's gravity. The commander seized the moment. "All units, split and flank," he shouted. "Hit their engines, their weapons, everything you can. Make them pay for every inch they take." The human ships moved like predators, weaving through the enemy. Missiles ripped into armored hulls, and energy beams tore open weak points. Two Deathworlder cruisers collided, sparks flying as their massive frames crushed together before exploding. On the bridge, the young officer's voice cracked with excitement. "Sir, we're doing it! They're faltering!" The commander did. "Not relax. Not yet. Keep pressure. Don't give them a chance to regroup." A pilot called out, "Sir, the colony below, they're cheering. I can see fires of celebration starting on the surface." The commander's eyes softened for a moment. "Let them cheer. But we finish the fight first." Then, unexpectedly, one of the largest Deathworlder ships fired a massive pulse directly at the human flagship. Shields flared, engines groaned, and alarms blared. "Brace for impact," the pilot shouted. The blast hit, shaking the entire ship. Sparks flew, consoles shattered, and smoke filled the bridge. Officers struggled to stay upright. "Sir, we're going down!" the young officer cried. The commander gritted his teeth, gripping the railing. "Hold it together. Divert power to shields and engines. Do not let them see us falter." The human crew worked frantically. Power rerouted, shields shimmered, engines roared. Slowly, the flagship stabilized. The enemy ship, overconfident, had underestimated human resilience. "Now," the commander said, voice low but sharp, "launch everything at the lead ship. Target weak points." Missiles and beams struck simultaneously. The enemy vessel shuddered, hull-cracking sparks flying. For the first time, it began to drift uncontrollably. "Direct hit, she's going down!" an officer shouted. The Deathworlder fleet faltered further, their movements frantic and uncoordinated. Human ships pressed the advantage, exploiting every gap, striking relentlessly. The commander watched, calm and calculating. "Keep the pressure. Make them regret coming here." Below, the aliens stared in awe as Deathworlder ships began to explode, tumbling through orbit like falling stars. One child cried, "They're winning! The humans are winning!" An elder whispered, "Not just winning, they are protecting us. They fight because it is right." But the battle was far from over. Another Deathworlder ship, massive and jagged, turned toward the colony, firing indiscriminately. Human ships dove in to intercept, but casualties mounted. "Sir!" a pilot shouted. "We're losing too many ships. We can't hold them forever." The commander's eyes were steel. "Then we make this final strike count. Gather every ship able to fight. Focus on that vessel. We take it down, or the planet falls." Every human vessel converged on the massive enemy ship. Fire and missiles struck from all sides. The Deathworlder vessel fired back, tearing smaller ships apart. Explosions lit the void like a deadly fireworks display. Inside the flagship, officers shouted orders. Pilots shouted warnings. The comms were chaos. But amidst it all, the humans moved like a single organism, coordinated and determined. Finally, the enemy ship faltered. Its engines failed. Sparks flew. It drifted, uncontrollable, straight into the planet's upper atmosphere. Below, the aliens gasped as the massive vessel crashed, erupting into a fireball visible from the surface. For the first time, they cheered openly, tears of relief flowing. "Freely, sir," the young officer whispered, exhausted. Did we really do it?" The commander looked at the battlefield. Many human ships were damaged, some destroyed, but the Deathworlders were in retreat. "We did," he said quietly. "But the fight is not over. We showed them humans do not bow. That is what matters." The Deathworlder's voice echoed once more, angry but diminished. "This is not over, humans. We will return." The commander nodded. "Then we'll be ready. Always ready." Below, the aliens whispered prayers of thanks. The human fleet hovered above, battered but victorious. They had fought for mercy, for justice, and for those who could not defend themselves. One alien child looked up at the stars and said softly, "The humans, they do not beg, they fight." And for the first time, hope was not just a fragile flame, it was a roaring fire. The smoke of battle lingered in the void. Debris floated across the orbit, remnants of ships destroyed in the fierce fight. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, hovered above the alien world. Silence hung like a fragile veil, broken only by distant fires burning on the surface. The commander stood on the flagship bridge, his eyes scanning the stars. The Deathworlders were retreating, their massive ships moving slowly, battered and cautious. For the first time, the humans held the upper hand. The young officer leaned close, voice trembling. "Sir, they're really leaving. We did it." The commander nodded slowly, though his face remained solemn. "Yes, but do not mistake retreat for surrender. They will return if we are not vigilant." The pilot spoke up from her seat, fingers still on the controls. "Sir, the colony below. They're alive. They're cheering. They can't believe it." The commander allowed himself a small smile. "They called for mercy, and we came. Mercy is our choice. But protection is our duty." Below, the aliens gathered in the streets and on rooftops. Families embraced, tears running freely. Their leaders spoke quietly to each other, voices full of awe. "They fought for us," one elder whispered, "not because they had to, but because they chose to." "They are different," another agreed. "Humans do not bow to fear, they face it." Back on the flagship, the commander opened a channel to the alien world. His voice carried calm authority. "Your world is safe, for now. We will remain until you are fully protected. Do not fear the shadows in the dark." The alien council responded with gratitude, their voices trembling. "We cannot thank you enough. Your people risked everything for us." The commander's eyes hardened as he turned back to the stars. "Risked everything because mercy is not weak. Remember that. And remember, if the Deathworlders return, they will meet humans who do not beg." A sudden alert flashed across the bridge. A Deathworlder scout had been spotted at the edge of the system, likely observing the humans' next moves. The young officer stiffened. "Sir, should we—" "Watch them," the commander said. "Do not fire yet. Let them see that we are not afraid. Fear is their weapon. If they find we have none, they lose their strength." The fleet moved cautiously, guarding the planet while remaining ready for any sudden attack. On the planet's surface, children ran through the streets, shouting in joy. One of them turned to the elder beside him. "Do you think the humans will stay forever?" The elder smiled softly. "Not forever, but long enough to remind us that courage matters, that standing for others matters." Above, the human flagship hovered, lights flickering over the battered hull. The commander spoke quietly to himself. "We came because they asked for mercy. But mercy is not weakness. Strength and mercy together. That is what makes us human." The young officer watching him whispered, "You really believe that?" "I know it," the commander said. "And so should everyone else who stands for life, for freedom, for those who cannot defend themselves." The Deathworlder scout slowly drifted away, disappearing into the darkness. The enemy fleet would return one day. Of that, there was no doubt, but for now the humans had shown that even the mightiest monsters could be challenged, that bravery and cleverness could turn the tide. On the alien world, the council gathered the people. "Remember these humans," one leader said. "They came because we begged for mercy, yes, but they stayed because they chose to protect us. Their mercy is a warning and a promise." The young officer looked out from the flagship's observation deck, eyes resting on the planet below. "Do you think they understand what we've done?" "They understand," the commander said softly. "They will never forget. And someday, perhaps, the universe will too." Then a final message was sent to the Deathworlders retreating. "Fleet clear and deliberate. To the Deathworlders," the commander spoke, voice carrying across space. "You demanded mercy. None was given. You will learn humans fight not because they are forced, but because it is right. If you return, we will be ready. Always." Silence followed. For the first time in the war, no beams of fire, no explosions, no thunderous voices, Only the quiet hum of the fleet standing vigilant. The aliens below watched the stars, some falling to their knees, some raising hands in silent thanks. "They are not like any we have known," one whispered. "They do not beg, they fight, and yet they protect." The commander turned to his crew. "We have done what many thought impossible. Rest now, but remain ready. War is not over. But tonight, we have shown the galaxy what it means to answer a cry for mercy with courage." The young officer smiled, exhaustion and relief mingling in his voice. "Sir, we really made a difference." The commander's gaze returned to the stars. "Yes, and the galaxy will remember, always." As the fleet held its position above the alien world, a battered but alive, the planet below safe for the first time in years, the message was clear across the cosmos. Mercy is not weakness, courage is contagious, and humanity's will is unyielding. The Deathworlders had come to destroy, to demand submission, but they had learned something unexpected. When humans fight for others, they do not just resist, they become unstoppable. And in that lesson, the universe shifted ever so slightly toward hope.